How Russia invasion changed the world. Global security in crisis.
Let's start with the basic. What actually happened in early 2022? On February 24, 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. While tension had been building since 2014 after Russia annexed Crimea, this invasion shocked the world. It wasn't just a regional war, it became something much bigger, a major turning point in international politics. Why? Because it directly challenged the post-Cold War global order. The idea that borders in Europe were now safe was broken. Suddenly, the possibility of the war between states in Europe became real again. And more than that, it exposed how interconnected our world really is. A war in a part of global disrupt economies, trigger energy crisis, impact military alliance, and raise questions about global security framework. But the question we're going to answer today is, how did the invasion change global politics in ways many people did expect? Let's break it down.
Now let's talk about the global security impact. The first one is NATO. Before 2022, NATO was often seen as kind of outdated. Some people even question if it was still needed or not. But after the invasion, NATO became more active than ever.
We are supporting Ukraine in its defense with weapons, ammunition, training, with everything it needs, and for as long as it needs.
The talks, though, took place for the first time without.
Countries like Sweden and Finland, which had stayed neutral for decades, decided to join NATO because they didn't feel safe anymore.
Thank you so much. Since Thursday last week, Sweden is a proud member of NATO, the most successful organization for peace and security that has ever existed.
This is an historic day. We welcome Finland as the newest member of our alliance.
That's a huge shift. Because actually Russia hoped and tried to weaken NATO, but instead it strengthened the alliance. And that's the first unexpected effect.
Won't happen imminently, but likely on a shorter timeline than what some Western analysts have initially posited. Vladimir Putin is likely attempting to set conditions to stabilize Russia's long-term financial position at a higher level of government expenditure.
Next, the European Union. EU countries start spending more on defense, and for the first time ever, the EU directly funded weapons to be sent to Ukraine.
Right now, the European Union is sending weapons and equipment valued at over $500 million to Ukraine. It's the first time the bloc has financed military support for a country under attack. The Union also plans to ban Russian state-owned media houses, Russia Today and Sputnik.
That is not normal. It shows that the EU is becoming more like a geopolitical actor, not only just an economic union. Meanwhile, in Asia, countries like Japan and South Korea became more alert.
Top diplomats from the US, Japan, and South Korea say they're concerned over China's recent military drills around Taiwan. The three countries called for the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues in a joint statement issued after the NATO Foreign Ministers Summit in Brussels.
Why? Because if Russia can invade Ukraine without major consequences, what's stopping China from doing the same to Taiwan?
Anger at Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with the Speaker of the US House of Representatives, as the island's defense ministry said it would respond calmly. The drills were announced by the People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command a day after Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen returned from a trip to the United States.
So, the invasion didn't just change Europe. It made security alliances tighter globally. It redefined what it means to be neutral in a conflict.
Now let's move to the economic side of things. Here's what's crazy. Russia is not just a big country. It's a major exporter of oil, gas, and wheat. When the war started, Europe tried to stop buying Russian gas to cut off their funding. But that created an energy crisis, especially in countries like Germany.
Energy crisis.
That depend heavily on Russian pipelines. This forced the EU to suddenly switch to renewable energy or find new partners like Qatar or the US. So, in a weird way, the war sped up Europe's transition to cleaner energy. Second, Global food prices went up. Ukraine is one of the biggest wheat exporters in the world. When their ports were blocked, countries in Africa and the Middle East feel it hard. Some even face famine risk. What people don't always realize is global politics and food security are connected. A war in Eastern Europe can cause hunger in North Africa. That's how fragile the global system is.
The IMF this week said, quote, "The war in Ukraine means hunger in Africa." The World Food Programme is also warning of a catastrophe, saying half of the grain it uses to feed the needy originates in Ukraine. But not only that, it has also been forced to slash aid to some African countries because of the crisis.
Also, big companies left Russia like McDonald's, Apple, and Netflix. This creates a divide in global markets where countries and corporations are now forced to pick a side. We're seeing the early signs of economic decoupling, or what some call Cold War 2.0.
Now let's wrap this up by looking into the future. One of the biggest impacts of the invasion is the decline of trust in international institutions. For example, the United Nations couldn't stop the war even though it was clearly illegal under international law. Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, so they can veto any resolutions. This shows a big flaw in the international system. If a powerful country breaks the rules and nothing happens, then who is really in charge? It also raises another scary question. Does nuclear power give countries the freedom to act without consequence? Russia has nuclear weapons, so NATO won't confront them directly. That could encourage other countries to pursue nukes as a shield. This is a danger to global security. But here's something that gives us hope. The solidarity shown by ordinary people, citizens around the world protested the war. Countries welcome Ukrainian refugees and even in Russia, people risk to speak out. In the end, the invasion exposed weakness in our system, but also revealed the strength of human resilience and the importance of cooperation.
And that's our take on how the Russian invasion has reshaped global politics, from military alliances and economic shift to energy and nuclear risks. This war is more than a conflict between two countries. It's a test of our international system and a reminder that security in one part of the world affects us all. Thanks for watching our group's video. Don't forget to like, share, and reflect, because understanding global security means understanding our future.